When someone belittles you, it rarely arrives wearing honesty. It comes disguised as humor, wrapped in a sideways smile, delivered with a tone that pretends innocence while aiming straight for your spirit. It comes as a sentence meant to shrink you, to make you doubt the ground beneath your own name. And in that moment, all eyes may not be on you, but all weight is. Your heart hears it before your mind understands it. Your body registers it before your mouth can respond. You feel the old ache rise, the ancient question whispering, "Do I deserve this?" I stand before you to say this: you do not owe anyone your smallness. You do not owe anyone your silence. And you certainly do not owe anyone the satisfaction of watching you crumble under their careless words. Belittlement is not about truth. It is about power. It is the language of those who feel taller only when others are bent. And if you listen closely, you will hear that it trembles. It is shaky, insecure, hungry. No one who is whole needs to tear another apart to feel complete. So when someone belittles you, the first response does not belong to your mouth. It belongs to your spine. Straighten it. Feel its history. Feel the backs that carried generations through storms far worse than a cruel sentence. Before you answer them, answer yourself. Remind yourself who you were before they spoke. Remind yourself who you are after they finish. Their words did not create you, and they do not have the authority to edit you. Too many of us were taught to confuse politeness with permission. We were taught to smile when disrespected, to laugh when wounded, to swallow discomfort so others could remain comfortable. But there is a difference between grace and surrender. Grace is strength wearing calm. Surrender is strength abandoned. And tonight I am calling you back to your strength. When someone belittles you, you do not rush to defend your worth. Worth that requires defense was never theirs to judge. You do not scramble for clever comebacks or sharpened insults, because that would mean you accepted their invitation to the lowest ground. You do not need to prove that you are tall by wrestling someone who insists on crawling. Sometimes the most powerful response is stillness, a pause so deliberate it unsettles them. Silence that says, "I heard you, and I am not impressed." Silence that refuses to perform pain. Silence that lets their words fall flat on the floor between you, where everyone can see how small they really are. And sometimes silence is not enough. Sometimes your spirit demands a voice, not loud, not cruel, but steady. A voice that does not shake because it knows its source. In those moments, you speak plainly. You say, "That was disrespectful." You say, "Do not speak to me that way." You say, "I will not accept that." No explanations, no apologies. No softening the truth to make it easier for someone who chose to make it hard for you. Understand this: clarity is not aggression. Boundaries are not arrogance. Self-respect is not rudeness. The world may try to convince you otherwise, especially if your confidence makes others confront their own lack of it. Let them wrestle with that. That is not your assignment. Belittlement often aims for an audience. It hopes to turn the room into a jury and you into a defendant. But you are not on trial. You are not required to perform humility to satisfy someone else's insecurity. When they try to make you smaller in public, remember that dignity is not something you lose when others watch. Dignity is what you model when others are watching. There will be times when your response is not immediate. You may walk away not because you were defeated, but because you were discerning. Walking away can be a declaration. It says, "I choose my peace over your chaos." It says, "I value my energy more than your opinion." It says, "I know the difference between a conversation and a trap." And later in the quiet, you may replay their words. That is human. Do not shame yourself for that. Instead, meet those words with truth. Counter every insult with a fact about yourself they cannot erase. Counter every attempt to diminish you with a memory of survival, of growth, of love you earned and strength you forged. You are not weak for feeling hurt. You are strong for healing honestly. Some people belittle because they learn that cruelty gets attention. Others belittle because they fear your light and do not know how to stand in it. And some belittle because they were once belittled and never learned another language. Understanding this may soften your anger, but it does not obligate your tolerance. Compassion does not require proximity. Empathy does not require endurance. When someone belittles you repeatedly, understand that the pattern is the message. At that point, the response may not be words at all, but distance. Distance is not punishment, it is protection. You do not need to explain your absence to someone who explained their disrespect so clearly. Protecting your peace is not avoidance, it is wisdom earned through experience. I want you to hear this deeply. How you respond teaches people how to treat you. Not because you control their behavior, but because you control your access. When you refuse to laugh at what wounds you, when you refuse to stay where you are diminished, when you refuse to play small to make others feel large, you change the rules of engagement. You raise the standard, and those unwilling to rise will remove themselves. There is a sacred power in knowing when to speak, and when to let silence do the work. There is courage in naming harm without becoming it. There is elegance in responding without venom. You do not need to become hard to be unbreakable. You do not need to become loud to be heard. You do not need to become cruel to be strong. Belittlement wants a reaction fueled by insecurity. Starve it with self-knowledge. Feed yourself with truth. Know your values so well that insults bounce off them like rain on stone. Know your purpose so clearly that distractions lose their grip. When someone tries to define you downward, remember that their words are not a mirror, they are a confession. I am speaking to the part of you that has swallowed too many moments, that has replayed too many conversations wishing you had said something different. I am speaking to the one who learned to shrink to survive. Survival was necessary then. Expansion is necessary now. You are allowed to take up space without explanation. You are allowed to demand respect without justification. The next time someone belittles you, breathe before you respond. Breathe in your history. Breathe in your resilience. Breathe in the certainty that you are not new to overcoming. Then respond in a way that leaves you proud in the quiet hours afterward. Respond in a way that aligns with the person you are becoming, not the pain you have known. Let your response be rooted, not reactive. Let it be clean, not cutting. Let it be honest, not humiliating. Whether it is silence, a boundary, a calm statement, or your absence, let it come from self-respect. That is the response that echoes longest. That is the response that teaches without preaching. That is the response that protects your spirit while exposing their intention. You cannot control who tries to belittle you, but you can control whether their words rent space in your mind. Evict them. Replace them with your own voice, steady and sure. Speak to yourself the way you wish the world would speak to you, and soon you will notice the world adjusting its tone. Stand tall, not in defiance, but in truth. Stand tall knowing that your worth is not a debate, your dignity is not fragile, and your voice is not optional. When someone belittles you, let your response reflect the deep, unshakable knowledge that you are already enough, already whole, already rising, and nothing spoken in smallness can undo what was built in strength. There comes a moment in every life when fear knocks softly first, politely even, asking for a conversation. It does not rush in, it negotiates. It asks you to consider shrinking just a little, staying quiet just a bit longer, doubting yourself just enough to keep the peace. Fear presents itself as caution, as wisdom, as humility. It tells you that this is not the right time, that you are not ready yet, that you might lose something if you stand fully in who you are. And many people mistake this voice for truth, because it sounds reasonable, because it learned the language of survival long before it learned the language of freedom. Strength does not arrive with noise or spectacle. It does not crash through doors or announce itself with fists raised. Strength appears the moment you stop negotiating with fear, the moment you say quietly but firmly, I have listened to you long enough. I have paid your rent in my mind for years. I have shaped my choices around your warnings and postponed my becoming to keep you comfortable. And now I am done bargaining with something that has never once made me safer, only smaller. Fear wants endless discussion. It thrives on maybe, on someday, on what if. Strength interrupts that conversation. Strength says, I hear you, but I am moving anyway. Not because I am fearless, but because I am finished letting fear sit at the head of the table. Strength understands that courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear be the decision maker. Strength understands that waiting to feel ready is often another form of hiding. When you stop negotiating with fear, your posture changes before your circumstances do. Your voice steadies even if your hands still shake. Your choices begin to align with truth rather than approval. You stop asking for permission to exist as you are. You stop editing your soul to fit into rooms that were never meant to hold you. You stop explaining your no as if it were a crime, and you stop apologizing for boundaries that protect your breath. Fear will tell you that if you respond from who you are, you will be rejected, that you will be misunderstood, that you will be alone. But fear does not mention the loneliness that comes from betraying yourself. It does not mention the exhaustion of wearing masks that itch and suffocate. It does not mention the quiet grief of watching your own life pass by while you wait for a safer moment that never arrives. The truth is this: fear loses its power the moment you stop treating it like a wise elder and start recognizing it as a frightened child. It has learned to scream because screaming once kept you alive. But you are not who you were when fear first learned your name. You have survived more than you ever thought you could. You have carried weight that would have crushed an earlier version of you. You have endured storms that rewrote your understanding of strength. And still, you are here. Protect your inner climate, regardless of the weather. The world will change its temperature without consulting you. Some days will be warm with affirmation, and others will arrive sharp and cold with criticism, dismissal, and disregard. If your inner climate depends on external weather, you will live in constant reaction. But when you learn to regulate your internal environment, when you decide that peace is not seasonal but intentional, you become ungovernable by chaos. Protecting your inner climate does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means choosing what you allow to linger inside you. It means refusing to let someone else's storm become your permanent forecast. It means acknowledging pain without building a home for it. It means feeling anger without letting it scorch your values. It means allowing sadness to pass through like rain, not letting it settle into mold. There will always be noise. Opinions will arrive uninvited. Judgments will knock as if they belong to you. But your inner climate is your responsibility. You decide what grows there. You decide whether bitterness takes root or whether wisdom is cultivated. You decide whether fear controls the temperature or whether self-trust sets the tone. When you protect your inner climate, you stop reacting to every provocation. Not because you are numb, but because you are anchored. You understand that not every comment deserves a response, and not every reaction deserves your energy. You learn the difference between urgency and importance. You learn that peace is not passive, it is maintained. Respond from identity, not from injury. Injury speaks fast, it interrupts. It raises its voice, it wants immediate relief, immediate validation, immediate victory. Injury is desperate to be seen because it was once ignored. Injury is sharp because it was once wounded deeply. And when you respond from injury, you may feel powerful for a moment, but you often walk away feeling hollow, replaying the scene, wishing you had spoken differently. Identity speaks slower. Identity does not rush because it knows who it is. Identity does not need to dominate the room to exist fully within it. Identity responds with intention. It chooses words that align with values, not emotions that spike and crash. Identity understands that the goal is not to win the moment, but to protect the self. When someone disrespects you, injury wants to mirror their tone, to cut back, to prove something. Identity asks a different question. Identity asks, who am I in this moment, and how do I want to remember myself afterward? Identity understands that responding from injury often hands control to the very person who caused the wound. Responding from identity takes that control back. Responding from identity may look like silence that is rooted, not fearful. It may look like a boundary stated without apology. It may look like walking away without theatrics. It may look like saying, that does not align with how I allow myself to be treated, and then disengaging. Identity does not beg to be respected. Identity expects it, and when it is not offered, identity removes access. This is not about being cold or detached. This is about being self-honoring. Injury wants to be understood. Identity wants to be intact. Injury wants the other person to change. Identity focuses on its own alignment. Injury keeps score. Identity keeps integrity. The more you respond from identity, the less reactive you become. Triggers still appear, but they no longer drive. You feel the surge, but you do not surrender the wheel. You learn to pause, to breathe, to remember that you are not defined by this moment. You remember that your worth does not rise and fall with someone else's behavior. Fear will try to re-enter the negotiation here. It will say, if you do not react, they will think they have won. But identity does not compete in games it never agreed to play. Identity understands that dignity is not loud. Identity understands that peace is not weakness. Identity understands that some victories look like restraint. Protecting your inner climate means not letting old wounds decide new responses. It means recognizing when the present moment is tapping into past pain and choosing not to let history hijack now. It means saying, this hurt feels familiar, but this moment deserves a fresh response. It means honoring growth even when instinct pulls you backward. There is a quiet confidence that emerges when you live this way. You stop scanning rooms for approval. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop rehearsing arguments in your head long after the moment has passed. You sleep better. You breathe deeper. You become less available for drama because drama feeds on reaction. Strength appears when fear realizes it no longer has leverage. When fear threatens loss and you answer with self-trust. When fear whispers you might fail, and you respond, I will survive. When fear says you will be judged and you respond, I am not for everyone. When fear says stay small and you respond, I am done shrinking. Responding from identity is a daily practice. Some days you will do it well. Other days injury will speak first and you will notice it afterward. That noticing is not failure. That noticing is growth. Each time you become aware, you shorten the distance between trigger and truth. Each time you choose alignment over impulse, you strengthen a muscle that will serve you for life. Your inner climate deserves care. It deserves protection. It deserves boundaries that are enforced, not just announced. You are allowed to curate your emotional environment. You are allowed to step away from people and situations that constantly disrupt your peace. You are allowed to choose calm over chaos without justifying it. When you respond from identity, you carry yourself differently. Your yes becomes meaningful. Your no becomes clear. Your presence becomes grounded. People may not always like it, but they will feel it. And those who are threatened by it will reveal themselves quickly. Fear will always try to renegotiate, especially when you grow. It will remind you of old stories, old mistakes, old voices that once had power over you. Let them speak. Listen without obeying. Strength is not about erasing fear. It is about refusing to bargain with it. Protect your inner climate on the days when praise is absent. Protect it on the days when criticism is loud. Protect it when you are misunderstood. Protect it when you are celebrated. Because even praise can become a storm if your sense of self depends on it. Respond from who you are becoming, not from what once hurt you. Let your responses reflect healing, not scars still bleeding. Let your actions be rooted in values you respect, not reactions you regret. Let your strength be quiet, consistent, and self-directed. Let fear watch as you move forward without asking for its approval.